Welcome to the BEASTwriter podcast. I'm your host, Ryan Sakamoto, and today we are going to be discussing and breaking down NFL Network's Gregg Rosenthal's top 100 free agent list in the 2021 class. So let's get started. Now, before we go ahead and do that, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for subscribing to my channel. Just do me a solid and hit the bell notification so you get notified when I go live or when I upload content. Also, I'm looking at my analytics and I am noticing that 73% of you guys are liking all my stuff but have yet to subscribe to my channel. So go ahead and do me a solid, guys. Hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen as you stay up to date on all things Beast in real time. All right, so without further ado, let's get down to business and break down Gregg Rosenthal's number 2 ranked player in the 2021 free agent class, and that is none other than Trent Williams. All right, so let me just go ahead and pull up what Gregg Rosenthal said when he discusses Trent Williams and his analysis of the All-Pro left tackle. He says, and I quote, "A Hall of Fame caliber player like Williams performing near his peak at a premium position will do incredibly well in the open market. And Williams will get there because the 49ers agreed not to tag him. Great tackles often play well into their late 30s, which is why I fully expect Williams to become the highest paid player at his position." Well, that's not looking so clean and so fresh and so clean for the San Francisco 49ers, who were hoping to re-sign Trent Williams. But were they? If you watch my earlier podcast, specifically the one as it pertains to Trent Williams once the move was made, I had a podcast up there on making sense of that move and why that move was made and why that trade was made. And I called it. I said it might be a one-year rental. And Gregg Rosenthal clearly states here that he sees this as Trent Williams hitting the open market and testing free agent waters. Okay. Now let's peel back another layer of the onion to get to the core as we go ahead and break down exactly what's going on here, right? So when we talk about left tackle money, especially when it comes to Trent Williams, right, we really have to look at the dynamics of the contract. So when you look at the top 5 salaries in the NFL based on annual per year, you look at guys like David Bakhtiari, who's making $23 million a year. Then you look at the Houston Texans, Laramie Tunsil, who's making $22 million a year. And then you take it a step further and look at the Baltimore Ravens, Ronnie Stanley, who's making a $19.7 million per year. And then people are saying, I bet you OBJ, not or Odell Beckham Jr., but Orlando Brown Jr. is saying, I'm a left tackle. How come I'm not on this list? Well, see, this is why he's upset, because he's not making this high-priced money that the blindside left tackles make, right? So getting back to this podcast, I already wrote a podcast on that too. But getting back to this particular podcast, then you break it down even further than that and say Broncos left tackle Garrett Bowles, right? I think he's making $17 million per year. And then Taylor Lewan from the Tennessee Titans is making $16 million per year. What these guys all have in common is they are all under the age of 30 or 30 or less, right? Trent Williams is how old? 33 years old, guys. He's 33 years old. So that's going to be something to look forward to as we move forward and as I discussed in this podcast, because age does play a factor. Now, Gregg Rosenthal pointed out here, I'm going to read it again. The great tackles often play well into their late 30s, which is why I fully expect Williams to become the highest paid player at his position. So Gregg Rosenthal must know something, because for him to put that as his last line and last sentence of the analysis that he broke down, when it comes to Trent Williams, it really sheds some light on exactly what Trent Williams might be thinking. You know, you got to remember, these guys are on NFL Network for a reason. And I never understood why people throw shit at them. Like, you suck. It's like, okay, dude, well, they're the ones on TV, so can't really doubt them. Anyways, but getting back to exactly what Gregg Rosenthal is saying, he actually makes sense, right? So let's look at it from an objective perspective when it comes to Trent Williams' age. Well, he's 32 right now, but by the time the opening kickoff starts, he will be 33 years old. So if I'm looking at it from an agent perspective, I'm looking at it like this. Okay, Trent Williams, you're turning 33, bro. All right, so let's look at all those left tackles who are 33 years old or around that age and what they're commanding on the open market or what they got in their last contract that their team they're with currently. You look at Nate Solder, 33 years old. His average per year, I believe, is 15.5 million per year. So when you take that into account with the New York Giants and what he's getting, well, he's definitely better than Nate Solder. And then he's definitely better than Garrett Bowles from the Denver Broncos. And he's definitely better than Taylor Lewan from the Tennessee Titans, who are getting $17 million and $16 million respectively. So you put that all together, you get a player in his 30s or close to his 30s in his late 20s at 17, 16 that Trent Williams is better with. And then you also compare that to a guy who's the same age as him getting 15.5 million. Well, he's better than all three of those players. So I think the sweet spot for Trent Williams would be somewhere in getting paid as a top 5 left tackle in the NFL. And I think that sweet spot is $18 million because you're not going to get more money than Ronnie Stanley, who's making 19.7. And you're definitely not going to make more money than David Bakhtiari, who set the bar at 23 million, right? So when you take that all into account, I think it makes sense. I think the sweet spot for Trent Williams is anywhere between 15.5 and 20 million, leaning closer to the 20 million side, valued at 18 million per year. That's where I see Trent Williams' value is. Now, this is where it gets kind of dicey when it comes to the San Francisco 49ers. You really got to talk about their salary cap health, right? What is their salary cap health like? Well, the $12.5 million head above water. So they don't have very much wiggle room to be working with. With that being said, you then take it a step further and you say, hey, man, Fred Warner is the number one priority. So they have to resign Fred Warner as their top priority. And if you looked at my description below, I included a timeline podcast on Fred Warner, and you can see all my podcasts, how that relates to this and what I'm talking about now. But I also, taking a step further, said that Trent Williams should be the number 2 priority. And I stated that in an earlier podcast. You can see that in the description below in regards to Trent Williams. And I talk about a possible contract snag, right? How is the 49ers going to have a contract snag? Well, let's look at it, right? So if you're Trent Williams and you're 33 years old, you're going to want some kind of a long-term deal. You don't want this 2 to 3 year contract. You want more in the 3 to 5 year contract with front-loaded money, because you know what you're getting in Trent Williams, an all-pro left tackle, best at the position, right? So you're not banking on future success because you already know what you're getting because he's been consistent throughout his whole entire career. The snag is, I think the Niners are only going to say, hey, look, Trent, we like you, bro. We want you here, team captain, leader, but we're not going to give you $18 million per year over the life of the 3 to 5 year contract. We might do a 2 to 3 year deal at $18 million per year, but we can't afford to give you anything more than a 3 year contract simply because we have other guys coming up for free agency, mainly Nick Bosa. We still got Fred Warner we got to re-sign. Drake Greenlaw is going to come up the year after that. And we have a lot of free agents that are due for big money contracts the year before they hit the last year of that rookie deal. So with that being said, come on, Trent, help us out, man. And Trent's going to be like, that ain't my problem. Pay me. You guys know what I can bring to the table. He's going to say something like that, right? So it's really interesting to see how this is all going to play out, because at the end of the day, we really don't know. And if I had to take a guess, I think Trent Williams will not be a San Francisco 49er next year, simply because there's not enough money to go around. And for this reason, and with the salary cap moving from 198.2 to 180 million in a decreased salary cap, when people say left tackles rarely hit the free agent market, well, Trent Williams is hitting the free agent market simply because this is COVID season and this is new to all of us. So to say that he's not going to test free agent waters, you'd be doing yourself a disservice. Now, With that being said, you can clear house and clear some cap money by obviously wiping your hands clean of a guy named Weston Richburg, saving the team $4.5 million off the books. But there's still more money that needs to be allocated toward salary cap health, and more moves would have to be made. More restructuring of these deals would have to be made, where you take their roster bonus for the upcoming season and then convert that into a signing bonus over the lifelong of whatever that contract is for that respective player. But getting back to how and why it could be a contract snag, it's for the simple fact that they, as in the 49ers, may be willing to give Trent Williams $18 million per year, but it stops at 2-3 years. They're not going to go 4 or 5 years because they can't. They can't afford it, right? Which brings me to my next question. Oh, yes, you guys read it right there. On the bottom right there. Could this be, begging the question, could the Colts make another and snag another all-pro player just like defensive tackle DeForest Buckner? Could they do it in back-to-back years? Here's the reason why I'm pointing this out. Anthony Costanzo, the left tackle, blindside left tackle, has recently retired. The Indianapolis Colts have $43 million in cap health. $43 million. You compare that to what the Niners have in 12.5, you do the math. And then you further compound that equation by looking at what the Niners have to do in order to re-sign and keep players happy, like Fred Warner, number one priority, guys like K'Wan Williams, guys like Jason Verrett, guys like Kyle Juszczyk. There's a lot of free agents on that side of the football, on both sides of the football, actually. And those priorities will have to be prioritized in some way. So where does that leave Trent Williams? He could be the odd man out when it's all said and done. And then you take it a step further to peel back another layer of the onion to get to the car. You really look at GM Chris Ballard, who became the Colts GM back in 2017. He's not afraid to pull the trigger on any move. And he's not afraid to pull the trigger on signing free agents or trading for big name free agents. He did it with who? Look what he did in free agency and via trade. Gets tight end Eric Ebron, right? Gets guys like DeForest Buckner, right? Gets guys like Edge Justin Houston. Signed Phillip Rivers to that 1-year contract before his retirement this year. Then he makes the move for Carson Wentz. Wow. So you don't think that GM Chris Ballard, who I believe is a top 5 GM in the NFL, would not make this deal? You'd be kidding yourself. He's probably looking at Trent Williams right now, licking his chops, saying, "Hey, Defo, what do you think about Trent Williams, man? Come here." "Oh, man, I think he'd be great. I think he'd be great." And Trent Williams, man, how you can go silverback? Here in Indianapolis? Hell yeah, let's get him. What are you waiting for? All right, man, let's make a move. Let's try to restructure some more. Actually, we don't need to restructure, huh? No, we got 40. We are good. We are good because the Colts are in a win now mode and they need a left tackle, and Trent Williams would be the ideal fit in Indianapolis. No one's putting it out there. That's why you're in the know before they know, because you follow me, and that's what I bring to the table. And you want to take it a step further, peel back another layer of the onion to get to the core. Well, the Colts pick what? Number 21 in the first round. At number 21, logically, what are you looking at? Based on my analytics and my mock draft, if they're going offensive tackle, the logical and most realistic options at offensive tackle that would be available: Samuel Cosmi from Texas, Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. Who would you rather have, those two guys or Trent Williams, especially if you're in a win now mode? It's a no-brainer. And then what you can do at number 21 is you can go after a guy like Kadarius Toney, who had a great Senior Bowl weekend. You get him, you get your wide receiver, fill that need. You get your left tackle, fill that need. And you're off and rolling because you already got who? Jonathan Taylor last year. Bam. Got your quarterback who? Carson Wentz. Bam. You still got who? The best guard in the NFL in Quentin Nelson. Come on, bro. Let's keep going. Ryan Kelly at center. Boom. Come on, man. Let's keep going. DeForest Buckner, all pro. Boom. Come on. Let's get going. Darius Leonard. Are you serious, bro? Come on, bro. I'm just saying. The odds are in the Colts' favor, and Trent Williams would be a perfect play in Indianapolis. Trent Williams would be a perfect play in Indianapolis. That's all I got to say about that. And while the Jags and the Jets all need left tackles, they're not in a win now mode. Let's be honest about that. They probably have the most holes of any team in the NFL. So when you look at it analytically, you cannot say that the Colts will not be in play. All right. So with the 49ers in a bind and Fred Warner's obviously going to be the number one priority, what should the 49ers do what should the 49ers do if they're willing to give Trent Williams $18 million per year? That's fair market value. As I stated earlier, $18 million is fair market value for Trent Williams. Now, if the 49ers say, okay, Trent, we'll give you $18 million a year, do they sign him or do they let him go if he wants a little bit more? What are your thoughts, BEASTwriter fam? Drop your comments in the section below. Leave those comments, start up the discussion, and I'm eager to go ahead and respond to those comments, as you know I do in every single podcast. So that's it for this podcast. I'll be hopping back on later today, and I'll be breaking down more of my insights as to what that is. Could be the NFL draft. Thank you for tuning in, guys. I'll be back. BEASTwriter out.